In this brief video, I wanted to demonstrate how to calculate the taxability of Social Security benefits. And I wanted to do it in an approach that's slightly different than what's given to you in the text. Because I think it's important, and an easier way to calculate this is to break out various parts of the calculation given on pages 428 and 429 of the text. The first thing you want to do is calculate the provisional or modified adjusted gross income. And the modified adjusted gross income calculation is given in the formula, and I won't go through that part here. I'm just going to use an example where we're given those provisional incomes, because that's really the more straightforward part of the calculation. And they combine this in the problem examples that they give in example 44 and 45. And I think it's easier to break those out to demonstrate the kind of the nuances of how to calculate the taxability of the Social Security benefits. Okay? So in the first example, we're going to calculate the amount of the benefits that may be taxable if the provisional income of this married couple is only $21,000. Well, if you look at the limits on page 4-28, you'll see that for a married couple, the lower edge of the range is only $32,000. Well, this $21,000 of MAGI, or provisional income, falls below that $32,000 threshold on page 428. Therefore, they're safe, and none of the $9,800 of Social Security benefits are taxable. In the second example, the provisional income, or MAGI, rises to $41,500. Now, you'll notice on page 428 that the $41,500 falls right in between the $32,000 lower end of the threshold and the $44,000 higher end of the threshold. This means that up to half of the Social Security benefits may be taxable. So we have to calculate that. And that's what I've done in Part B, is I've calculated in a couple of steps how to determine the extent to which that $9,800 might be taxable. And so because the provisional income falls within the range of $32,000 and $44,000, that means we're going to be dealing with a 50% potential of Social Security benefit taxation. And so the test is then to take the lesser of half of the benefits, which is half of $9,800 is $4,900, or half the benefits, half the difference between the $41,500 and the $32,000 lower threshold for a married couple. So their provisional income is $41,500, deduct the lower end of the threshold, or the amount to which their provisional income exceeds the lower end of the threshold, and then take that in half, cut that in half. And so we're comparing half the benefits to half of the extent to which the provisional income exceeds the lower end of the threshold of $32,000, and we'll take the lesser of those two, and therefore of the $9,800 Social Security benefits, $4,750 are taxable. And feel free to run through this video as often as you need to kind of get the sense of how these calculations work, of course. In the next example, it becomes a little more complicated, because here the provisional income rises to $63,500. So that exceeds the $44,000 upper end of the range. That means that up to 85% of Social Security benefits may be taxable. So the formula becomes slightly more convoluted, and that's why I wanted to break this I have the calculation embedded here using logic function and the minimum function. But I think it's easier just to kind of break out the calculations here separately. And so the test reads this way. We're going to determine of this $9,800 Social Security benefits, given the MAGI, or provisional income, of $63,500, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take 85% of the Social Security benefits, and that's $8,330. 85% times $9,800 is $8,330. Now, we're going to compare that to the lesser of 85% of the excess of $63,000 over $44,000 plus this lesser of $6,000 or half the benefits. So in other words, this second test is really a two-part test. And then we're going to compare this result of this two-part test to the results of the first part of this criteria. And then we'll take the lesser of those two. And that's what made this a little more complicated. All right, so again, the first part of the test is take 85% of the Social Security benefits. And we're going to compare that to the extent to which the provisional income exceeds the upper threshold of $44,000. So 63.5 minus 44 times 85% is $16,575. Now to that we're going to add the lesser of $6,000, which is just given to you in the formula, or half the benefits, which we said earlier was $4,900. So the lesser of these two in the second part of the test is $4,900. So that's the amount we're going to add to the $16,575 we calculated up here, which was again 85% of the extent to which the provisional or MAGI income exceeds the upper threshold limit of $44,000. So we're going to add these two together, and we wind up with $21,475. Now, finally, we're going to compare the results of this lower end of the test to the 83,300 we calculated here, and of course 8330, I should say, is less than 21,475. So that's the amount of the $9,800 of Social Security benefits that are taxable. I know this is a convoluted, complicated calculation, but if you run through the video maybe a time or two and just kind of stop it as you need to and run through these calculations as I have them laid out, especially this part C, where the provisional income exceeds the upper limit of the provisional income range of $44,000 for a married couple. And you break that down into its component parts, where the second part of the test consists of two elements. The first part of the test, of course, is just the one element. Please let me know if you have any questions.